Stop throwing away your empty feed bags or ask your local chicken keeper for some empties and make this cute tree watering bag to help young trees and shrubs get established with deep roots during their first few growing seasons. Not only will these tree bags help with the deep watering of the trees and shrubs, but they will also help reduce disease by preventing water from sitting on the foliage of your trees and shrubs and breeding bacteria. They'll also prevent splashing from the soil onto the leaves to prevent the transmission of disease that way too. This is sitting with my peach tree, but I can easily just pick it up because it's empty right now and carry it over to my persimmon tree or my honeyberry bush. So I had this idea after making plant cages for my garden using 14 gauge welded wire fencing and spending over a year mulling on how to make use of the leftover feed bags I kept accruing after feeding my chickens. Now, before I made this tree bag waterer and holder, I needed to make sure that the feed bag actually held water and dripped the water out at a reasonable pace so that it could actually provide a deep watering for whatever tree or shrub I put it around. That was a success. So then all I needed to do was figure out how I was going to support the bag so it didn't fall over when I filled it with water. I had the idea of surrounding these with the metal cages because the tree bags wouldn't stand up by themselves. And I had just made a bunch of plant supports out of wire mesh earlier, and I thought, I think this is going to be able to support a bag. And that's where this was born. To improve how these look, I also flipped the bag inside out. So you want to make sure you do that too. Just so that it is less messy looking, you're hiding the branding. And that's where making the wire cage comes in. So let's get into making these tree bags with the wire cages as support and also as an aesthetic bonus. For this project, you will need an empty feed bag, obviously, some welded wire fencing. This is a 4 foot by 50 foot long roll of welded fencing. It has 2-inch by 4-inch holes and it is 14 gauge. Also want a pair of needle nose pliers and a good pair of wire cutters to get through that thick gauge of welded wire fencing, some gloves and sleeves to protect you from any sharp ends. So my goal is to make basically a cage frame to hold this bag. So it's kind of like a cute dewatering structure. I'm going to do double the amount of wire and this is roughly double the amount of wire as the bag is wide. That's gonna be good. I've learned from last time to put something heavy on the open end to make cutting it easier so it's not rolling in on itself. Now we're gonna take these heavy duty wire cutters and we're going to just cut all the way down. Something to make note of when you're cutting the wire for the cage is to cut down the middle of the square so that there are arms left after the cut so you can attach the cage to itself. Looking at this, I want this cage to be as tall, if not just a hair taller than the bag, because I'm going to do a design that'll make it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to cut all along here to make this part of the cage shorter. Now we need to connect those arms that I was talking about to each other so that we can form the cage structure. This is where these needle nose pliers are going to come in. We're going to start by twisting the top arms together so that we can stop the wire from flipping back on itself. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, on the bottom, just so that this isn't going to snap open on us. It's going to be for safety and also for making it easier to twist all the wires along the sides. And now I'm going to twist these long parts. So I'm trying to grab it and just twist it. I'm going to grab it from this inside here. And then just kind of twist it like that. There we go. So now we need to twist all these edges. I am making care to make sure none of these pointer edges are too far poking into the cage, because I am going to have a bag in here and I don't want the bag to get torn. This is all now sealed. I'm hoping that this is going to be sturdy enough to hold water, but before I move forward with designs and making this prettier, I'm going to fill this bag with water to make sure that this is even something that's going to work. So this is a success. The cage is supporting the bag of water. So I do think that this is going to work. I think you could stop here if all you care about is a cage to support the feed bag as a tree bag. But I want to make it cute. It's part of the thing. I want to make this a little bit aesthetic, more aesthetic. So I am now going to work on the design. So this is just a double 90-degree turn, and I have to be careful to make sure I'm doing it in the same direction every single time. So I'm going that way, and I'm trying to keep them flat, so I pinch them together like this. And I'm just doing this double 90-degree turn to create this swirl in the wire all the way around. You can also pinch the vertical metal and create an X. I've seen people do that, and I think that that looks really cute. Or if you wanted to create a more dome-like top, instead of twisting the vertical wire, you can do a 90-degree turn and twist the horizontal wire all the way at the top or second to top, and that'll start creating a dome-like shape at the top, like the other cage I've made. This is the tree bag waterer and cage fully complete. I did notice that if you don't create that 90-degree turn all the way around at about the same spot in the vertical wire, then it does create some inconsistencies in the wire cage, like top rim height. I am really happy with how this turned out. I love that this is mobile, so I can move this tree bag to any tree or shrub that is going to need an additional amount of water. And I also like that it is making use of these feed bags. And I also love that if I don't need to give any plant a lot of watering, or if I no longer have a use for this, this can also serve as a plant cage. That is how I made this DIY tree watering bag. If you found this interesting, or if you thought this was a creative way to use feed bags, give this video a thumbs up. If you want more content about growing a garden in Zone 6B with the environment and with perennial and workload reduction ideas in mind, hit the subscribe button. And this is Zone 6B Gardening signing off.